Good morning, everyone. Hola, mujeres. This is Marianne coming to you from UNA-pologetically, and I'm here live. And today's topic is self-love the same as self-care? And it's a topic that came up recently for me because I was just on a podcast, and of course, like there's lots of people that do retreats for women and things like that, and I've been seeing a variety of different things that people are doing on the retreats, and I'm finding it very interesting on the concepts and the themes that people are coming up with when in regards to the retreats. So I wanted to, come on live today, talk to you about some of the differences and how they're similar, right? So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody comes on. I am on Facebook and on Instagram, and let's just see if anybody comes on, right? And feel free to let me know that you're here in the chat just as well. And so that way we can begin, say hi. And if anything resonates with you, definitely comment, right? Or share with me your thoughts and opinions, because those are definitely welcomed here as well. Because I want to see how many people know the difference or understand what these two concepts are about, right? So all right. So again, welcome everybody. We're on Facebook and Instagram. And today the topic is self-love and self-care. Are they the same? And in particular, I'll be talking about my retreats and what I usually have at my retreats just as well. So in 2021, I started a self-love retreat for women. And primarily I began those because I was having a lot of women in my talk therapy portion of things, where I started identifying where a lot of the issues that they were struggling with was the self-love concept, right? And understanding what that was and how to build on that. And of course, self-care comes into play in a lot of these different things. But let's talk about the difference between self-love and self-care. Self-care is a concept of or aspect of self-love. So self-love is the broader term, and good morning, and self-care is just like a branch off of it, right? So a lot of times they're intertwined together because people in general, we're usually working and we're doing things, and you're spending time with your kids, with your spouse, or even by yourself. Even if you're an individual person, there's just stuff to be done, right? And a lot of times it's hard to prioritize self-care because there's so many things we have to do, and we're in the hustle and bustle of life. So one of my girls, Danielle, she's the self-care queen, right? And a couple weeks ago, I attended one of her workshops that she had as well. And we very much know that they're two different concepts, but not everybody understands that, right? So self-love is the embodiment of who you are as a person, right? It's learning to accept and embrace everything that makes you who you are. And there are a variety of aspects of self-love. One is self-care, learning how to take care of yourself, identifying what that is. Sometimes they break it down to skincare, to hobbies, right? And just learning how to prioritize different things, and doing activities and just spending time by yourself. But there's also other aspects of self-love. Self-love is also getting to know the parts of who you are, and they call it the imperfect parts, right? Some of the imperfect parts and the parts of you that you really love. For me, the imperfect parts are the parts that may just need a little bit more nurturance, the parts that we want to learn how to love more because oftentimes we may reject them. Those are still part of who you are. They make you who you are. It's just learning how to embrace all aspects of it, so that way you can learn how to accept yourself. Self-acceptance, another concept or aspect of self-love. Being able to have gratitude, healthy relationships, right? Setting boundaries, learning when to say no, or knowing your own limitations on certain things. These are all aspects of self-love. So the other day when I was on a podcast, and we were talking about my retreat that will be coming in 2025. I took a little hiatus to really start building up Unapologetically, the movement. And we'll be going away 2025, and it's going to be a self-love retreat. So that is going to include some aspects of self-care, but it is not just about self-care. It is about the self-love part of things, right? And I think that's what differentiates me in my retreats versus a lot of other retreats. So on this podcast, when we started talking about the retreats, and she was asking what are your retreats about, and I told her, self-love, and we do some self-care aspects, and she honed in on the self-care, right? And then she made that to be all of the retreat, versus for me, that is not what I do. Self-care is again, like focusing on, a lot of people will do yoga. A lot of people will do meditation during those retreats. A lot of people may do sound healing. Those are things that I do include in definitely some of my retreats. But I also provide the education portion, and helping women understand that you have to also embody and start accepting those parts of yourself that you might struggle with, or learning how to set healthier boundaries, or prioritizing yourself in a lot of different situations, right? So we learn about those other aspects of self-love that make us who we are. We don't just focus on activities and things that feel good to us too, because self-love is talking about the parts of us that we feel most vulnerable about, right? And a lot of women have a hard time kind of discussing that, but it's so liberating to be able to talk about those things that mean the most to us, but we also try to hide and protect from other people. I always say there's power in vulnerability, and society will make you believe that vulnerability is weak. But if I can be vulnerable to people, and I kind of sit back and see how you handle my vulnerability, and if you take advantage of that, then I could simply start putting up my boundaries. Then I know you're someone who I cannot be vulnerable with, who I cannot share things with. So I will put up my boundary, and you will no longer be included in my circle, right? And that's what makes vulnerability so powerful, is because you get to see other people for who they are, and also set limits based upon whether or not they are openly receiving you with care, or they are going to be judgmental or hurtful to you. So hi. So we talk about these differences because they are important. So when I started in 2021, and I was researching how to conduct a retreat, I saw a lot of people that are putting out their self-love retreats, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me get an idea of what they have. A lot of it was on self-care, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's an aspect of self-love, but it's not all what self-love is, not what self-love is. So when you are researching to see a retreat, and you want to partake in some of these things, it would be helpful for you to learn how to identify what is it that you're looking for, right? What is it that you're looking for, as far as, what you feel like you need to work on for yourself? Is it self-care? right? Because sometimes that is very difficult for us to do and to prioritize when you have your busy schedule. So self-care might be the thing that you're just looking at, but I also know some people that are pretty good with the self-care and the prioritizing that, but when it comes to loving themselves, they're having a hard time with that, right? And if that is what you're having a hard time with, if you're having a hard time with showing gratitude, if you're having a hard time with setting boundaries and knowing what's healthy and what's not healthy for you, if you're having a hard time with um, aligning yourself with the things that you most desire, or also learning about what you want and need out of life, what you like, what you don't like, that's self-love. That's getting a better understanding of who you are as a person and learning to love and embrace and accept every bit and part of you, knowing and discovering who you are as a person. So it's important that you do understand those two aspects, because you might feel like you're missing out in something, and you're probably wondering why. Like, I enjoyed that, but I feel like I'm still missing something. And it may be the latter, right? So, again, when it comes to self love, self care, two important concepts. You want to be able to practice these things, and as well as you want to learn the difference about what you might be missing for yourself, that's going to give you a better understanding of the things that you want to improve on. If anybody has a question, definitely ask that question in the comments, so that way I can address them and answer them, so we can stay better connected when it comes to it, right? I know that a lot of people, self-love. So let's talk about self-love into grief. One of the lives that I did, I think like about a month ago, was on grief. We grieve during self-love just as well. And why do we grieve? Because a lot of times when you're aligning yourself with those things that are most important to you, the things that feel good, the things that feel right, that your intuition is telling you you have to go this way, not that way. A lot of times we are losing sometimes connections with other people, relationships, and they may be family, they may be friends, and it tends to be hurtful. We go through this grieving process when we're doing so, right? Um, but we start accepting that this is my place. This is where I belong. This is where I feel the most at peace and happy, is when I am starting to align myself with the things that feel good to me and that makes me feel at peace. We start aligning ourselves with our energy and the things that are energetically connected to us. A lot of times when things don't feel good and we're forcing ourselves in situations, we're not showing ourselves love. We are forcing ourselves in a situation that we don't belong, and it feels, lack of a better term, yucky. It doesn't feel good. And you feel it, and you feel it in your gut. And that's different from feeling anxiety, versus there's that intuition or there's that voice in you that's saying, don't do it. And what my retreat helps you to start understanding is learning to trust that voice that is inside of you that's telling you, don't do it, right? As well as learning to embrace the parts that's saying, this feels right, go ahead. And what we have a hard time with as people is that sometimes we don't want to trust that. We don't want to trust the part of us that says, don't do it, versus do it this way, because maybe doing it this way is the part of us that we want versus what we might need. And especially if it's connected to another person. If I want this person and my gut is saying, ooh, look at all the red flags there, and it's singing to you and it's like, no, don't do it. I don't have a voice. but is telling you don't do it. And you see all the red flags and you are intentionally and purposely ignoring all those things, but you do it anyways. Eventually you will get hurt. And you get hurt because you've already known that energetically it wasn't for you. And that has to do with, again, whether it's something that you may not trust within yourself. Maybe it could be a self-esteem thing where you're just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be connected to anybody ever again, or I'm just tired of looking, or whatever it might be. And whatever those things are, those are the things that you need to work in when it comes to self-love. Learning to say, I'm worth it no matter what. And I value myself enough that if my intuition is telling me, nah, sis, that means I'm going to go the other direction and go with something that says, this is it. These are green flags over here. And you need to just keep going over here, no matter how long it takes, because this will lead me into the direction that I need to be, that is going to create my peace and happiness. And a lot of people have a really hard time with trusting that it will lead you in the direction that you need to be. You just got to give it time. And you need to trust yourself, and you need to hold yourself in value to know that this will work out. No matter how long it takes, your pace is your pace. This is not a competition. This is for you to handle and deal with life in the direction that feels the best for you. And learning how to trust that I don't know what it is about this, but it doesn't feel good. And I'm not going to sit around waiting for that shoe to drop, because when it drops, it may not be good for me. So I'm hoping that this adds a little bit more clarification on self-love and self-care. And when you are looking for a workshop or retreat based upon some of these needs, is for you to understand is what is that I need in the moment. And again, it might be that self-care aspect of it and just working on how to add that into your routine, which is a great thing. We need that. As well as if you're looking for, I just noticed I have one earring on. Did y'all notice that? I forgot I had the other one here. My ears hurt. But if you're looking for the self-love aspect or that piece to it, it's saying, I want to learn how to love myself wholly and unapologetically, right? All of me. And we want to be able to do that as well, because we can't have one without the other, but there are other pieces that align when it comes to loving our whole self unapologetically. All right. So, and just so you know, April 2024, so this April, I will be having the itinerary up and the packages up in regards to my Unapologetically Me self-love retreat that is going to be in 2025. So with my retreats, everybody knows it's always limited spots, because we like to keep them nice, small, and intimate. So that way people, women can open up and feel a lot more freer to be vulnerable in these retreats, in these moments. And we're going to have a blast. We're going to have a great time, and it is going to be by a beach. So be prepared for that. And if you cannot, even if you can't make it to a retreat, we have workshops that I host monthly. There is one that is coming up February 25th, and it is based on Unapologetically Me, self-love, and we're working on self-compassion. So that's the theme of what we're working on, self-love and compassion, for February 25th. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to be hosting it at Manchester Chamber. So, show up. It's only $15, and we're going to have some free swag bags, a little bit of light snacks, and some fun things that are going on for a couple hours. So, you're ready. I'll be there. There's only 8 spots left. So definitely sign up today and register if you are free for that day or those couple of hours. I'm happy to see you there, so you can really get the preview of what self-love is. All right. Thank you, ladies, for signing on with me today, and we'll talk soon.